Hello and welcome everyone to the Modernize or Die podcast. I am your host, Daniel Garcia, along with my co-host,
Jacob Beers.
Thank you. So how are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing great. It's a lovely Tuesday afternoon here in Kansas City.
Let's kick things off. So we got lots of Ortus news coming up. First up is the Ortus and the BoxLang recap from 2025, the October recap. We had a lot of things going on. We released ColdBox 8, the Ocho, a new version of ColdBox that is works with BoxLang native. I don't know why I'm getting tongue-tied with that. I'm so excited still about the Ocho. We did talk about it last episode, so if you want to catch up on all that, but lots of cool things, they're coming. So as we mentioned, the Ocho, whether you're creating REST APIs, full-stack web apps, microservices, or even desktop applications, ColdBox 8 brings groundbreaking capabilities to that will supercharge your web development workflow. I just read that off the script. Did it sound like it?
No. It was totally natural.
Totally natural. Okay. Along with those sorts of things, we've got the ColdBox Tips and Tricks series, ColdBox free tip number 10, Whoops, better exception tracking. And so Whoops is our error page. If you're in ColdBox and you want to get an error, it's much nicer than the regular. And so as always, our episodes are sponsored by somebody, in this case, again, Ortus Solutions. Imagine that. What specifically in Ortus, Jacob, is sponsoring us?
This episode is backed by Ortus AI Services, where smarter software meets real-world impact. Cut the busy work, automate what slows you down, and turn your data into clarity with AI crafted specifically for your team.
Nice. Okay, so moving on.
Well, actually, really quick before we move on, I want to draw a little bit more attention to ColdBox 8 before it's too quick. I've actually had the privilege of upgrading a couple of apps from 7 to 8, and I just wanted to throw out that the upgrade path was super smooth. I basically just had to do a box install to get the latest dependencies because there were a couple breaking changes, but other than that, in my application, it worked first try, no issues. If you're worried about it, maybe just go give it a shot, and it might turn out better than you think.
That's the spirit. It might turn out better than you think. No, go try it. It's going to be awesome. Woo! That's the kind of excitement we need, Jacob, on a Tuesday afternoon.
Working on that.
Okay, we'll get there. Did you have your coffee today?
I've had two. You get what you get,
I guess. Oh, man. Awesome. Okay. And so going up to the BoxLang news, if you have not heard, BoxLang 1.7 is out. BoxLang 7 introduces server-sent events, SSEs for real-time streaming, JDBC cache store for distributed caching, AST generation tools for code analysis, bytecode compatibility versioning, and significant performance improvements across the runtime. I think, Jacob, this is one of the releases that you're really excited about. You're excited about every release, to be fair, which is a good thing. But there's a lot of performance improvements that you're very excited to see in this one, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. They mostly pertain to application startup. If you're using a ColdBox application, they mostly pertain to application startup because it has to do with when the templates are being compiled and cached. And so that's really going to happen on the first time you hit the site. But faster startup times are always a good thing.
And then I think under the hood, there are some changes too.
Well, define under the hood. That's a little bit broad with BoxLang. But yeah, okay. I mean, there's been a lot of great changes.
Look at the show notes.
The show notes. Yep, we've increased the performance of our parser and bytecode generation pipeline. That's mostly the part that I was talking about with getting the first compilation of it. So that's pretty great. And then we've had a lot of other additional bug fixes and feature additions.
Nice. And along with that, BoxLang server-side events, consumers are coming. Do you want to tell us what that really means?
Yeah, absolutely. So server-side events are actually, if you're not familiar with them, I wouldn't blame you. They've been around for a really long time. Yeah. But
that's why I'm having you tell everybody about it.
Sure. They've been around actually for a long time, but they didn't get very much traction when they were first released. And it hasn't been, at least in my mind, until the past couple of years that they've begun to get more popular. But it's basically a way for the server to send events back to the client, but it doesn't use AJAX long polling, and it doesn't use WebSockets. It actually creates an HTTP connection, and then instead of closing it, it streams data back as it goes. So it's kind of it's kind of awkward because the client or the server can send data back to the client, but once that connection is open, the client can't send data to the server through that connection. So it's one way from the server to the client. And it's kind of been adopted by a lot of AI tools as a simple way. If you have access to HTTP, you automatically have access to server-sent events. You just have to process the data a certain way. And so they've taken advantage of that to give the experience of streaming tokens as soon as they're ready, kind of things like that. So this is something that Luis has put some work into to give BoxLang native support for server sent events and make interacting with AI models a little bit easier.
Nice. And I think with version 1.8 is going to ship with the consumer server sent events.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure when 1.8 is going to be available, knowing our team, and probably very soon. But I believe it's also in the snapshot right now if you want to go check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. If you install BoxLang at BE, you'll be able to test it out right now.
And BE stands for bleeding edge. So maybe don't use that one in production if you don't have to, but
Or maybe give it a shot and maybe you'll be surprised. Who knows?
True. So next up, we've got a really nice article from our own Dan Card. I say Dan Cod because he's from Boston. Breaking the CFML barrier, going serverless on AWS Lambda with BoxLang. So like most in the CFML community, Dan's heard about serverless for years, but never really dove into it for, whatever reasons. But one of these, and a pretty big one, was an irrational avoidance of all things Java and being used to the ease of spinning up a CFML instance at other hosting locations. Now, when I say that, I'm actually reading what he wrote. I'm not making fun of Dan. But yeah, I feel his pain because I've always been kind of like, ooh, Lambda, that sounds cool, but what does that even mean? And so he's got a blog article that talks about how to get started with that. And it's a nice little intro into it and ease yourself into the kiddie end of the pool and get going. Did you paste that?
I did not. Sorry. I was
it's okay.
enthralled by your
My dulcet
narration.
tones.
Yeah.
Oh man. Are you posting it now?
No, I saw. Sorry. I'm completely slacking. My bad. All right. I'm doing it right now. Don't do it for me. All right.
I need you to close Slack and focus on the podcast. Oh man. Well, Jacob has starts getting his third cup of coffee. Next week is Thanksgiving week. And of course, that means BoxLang Thanksgiving week, where we want you to code smarter and modernize faster. And we've got a special discount coming up. We're doing more than just offering free deals or discounts. We're helping developers and companies modernize their CFML apps and take the next big step into the BoxLang era. If you ever wondered how ready your code base is to move to BoxLang, this is your chance to find out directly from our experts, like Jacob is one of our many experts.
And Daniel.
And me. Although more Jacob. Did you paste that?
Well, I can't even pay. I did get that one, so
okay.
It took me 3 tries, but
I'm going to give you a break from pasting if you want to talk about the next couple of things.
I will gladly accept that break. So we've got SocketBox. This is a new blog post on the Ortus Solutions blog. This is SocketBox deploying behind a load balancer. I actually had the opportunity to write this article, and this is number 2 of our 4-part series on using SocketBox in production. And it's a really exciting piece of technology. I didn't personally write SocketBox. That's from Brad Wood, but I've got the privilege of getting to use it and tell everyone about it through these blogs. And so there are traditionally some challenges in the past, WebSockets and ColdFusion have been a little bit difficult to get working together, but SocketBox completely solves that. It makes it very, very easy to get WebSockets up and running in your application, BoxLang and ColdFusion, as long as you're using a command box hosted server. And then it even provides some patterns for solving some of the issues that you run into when using WebSockets. Like if we almost 100% of people deploy behind a load balanced, architecture. And when you're using WebSockets and that has a persistent connection to a specific server, that can lead to some issues, making sure you're communicating with the right pieces of data and it gets everywhere it needs to be. And so SocketBox actually provides patterns for making sure that WebSockets work in a clustered environment. And as you can see in that article, it's really, really easy to set up. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. There's even an included repo that you can pull down and run to see things in action. So
nice.
Go check that out and look forward to the next ones that we have coming out.
Awesome. I always appreciate that. When there's a GitHub repo, just pull it down and run it and it just works. Then you can start tweaking it and playing with it. And it's nice. Well, along with that, we've got no, you're going to talk about this one.
The BoxLang Compat UI.
Because I think you love the UI modules, don't you?
I don't know about that. Another bridge from CFML to BoxLang. We're thrilled to announce that the release of the BX Compat UI, a comprehensive UI compatibility module that makes migrating your Adobe ColdFusion and Lucy applications to BoxLang seamless and straightforward. If you've been hesitant about moving to BoxLang because of your existing UI components, this module is your answer. So there you go.
I know there's a couple of different schools of thoughts when it comes to using things like this in general. Some developers are like, never, keep your UI out of my code. And then they prefer to do everything, manually with JavaScript or whatnot. But there's some developers that are like, hey, this is great. Why not? A couple of tags, I get everything I need and go. And so historically, there's been issues over the years with some engines and support and providing old libraries that don't get updated and all that. I don't think that's really the case with us because we're modern, but it is kind of interesting to see some of the very smart people that, we work with and it's using BoxLang and just kind of going back and forth on it. But you know what? It's there. If you love it, use it. If you don't. Just use BoxLang. And so we got one more announcing the BX LDAP, Enterprise LDAP for BoxLang. It is available for BoxLang Plus and Plus Plus subscribers. This is a LDAP module, brings enterprise-grade directory access to BoxLang. It goes above and beyond traditional CFML LDAP implementations, offering more features like connection pooling, event-driven programming, multiple return formats, and clean, intuitive APIs. And so a lot of people are like, wait a second, I thought BoxLang was open source. Well, BoxLang is open source for most everything that you need or most everything that most people need, but there are some modules that are going to be commercial. It's just the way it has to be, and this is one of them. You had other ones like Redis and some of the other things, but for most people, if you don't need LDAP support, it doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about it. But someday you may grow big enough where you need it, and then know that we've got it, because Ortus is always trying to be forward thinking. Okay. Speaking of which, we got your Modernize Your Apps, the team that supports you every step of the way, the team behind the revolution. And this is, let me paste that link. Just a blog post that kind of talks about who we are at Ortus, what we do, why we do what we do, and inviting you to become a pioneer with everything BoxLang Plus. I feel like we're just talking the same thing over and over again, which is good because we want people to become BoxLang pioneers, and we're all very excited about all of this. But coming up here, Java Pro. What is Java Pro, Jacob?
So Java Pro is a website dedicated to sharing information about the Java ecosystem. So it's kind of cool. We've gotten published there in Java Pro just recently, announcing the BoxLang 1.7 release. If you have been following along either with our podcast or with the Ortus news and things like that, there probably isn't going to be any new information for you here in this article. But the thing that's really exciting about it is that it demonstrates that the BoxLang reach is extending out to the broader Java community. We have goals and aspirations to make BoxLang, the next step for ColdFusion development, but we also want to make it something that contributes to the Java ecosystem as a whole and makes it easier for all Java developers of all persuasions to be able to deliver faster. And so this is demonstrating that we're taking steps towards that, and it's gaining traction.
Yep, just like you've heard of other Java implementations like Kotlin or Scala, well, BoxLang kind of fits in with that spirit of what we're doing with it as well. So very exciting. I went to DevNexus for the first time earlier this year, and we were talking about BoxLang with Java developers, and there was a lot. You were there, Jacob. There was a lot of excitement from people like, "Ooh, what is this BoxLang? Ooh, it's another this. Another, oh, you could do that, and it's that easy to do that." So there was some genuine excitement. I know Luis has gone to Japan. He's gone to some other conferences, and overall, I think it's been a very positive response just for the Java community and completely outside of CFML. So it's very exciting.
Absolutely.
So another feature, if you want to paste this, BoxLang's improved PDF handling. Ray Camden has a nice little blog post about it. Basically, BoxLang has introduced a premium, again, there's a premium PDF Plus module, part of its BoxLang Plus plan that adds powerful PDF manipulation capabilities going beyond just creating PDFs. With this, you can perform advanced tasks such as add attachments, insert and remove watermarks, headers, footers, delete pages, merge documents, really a lot of PDF manipulation. And then if you look at Raymond's article, he kind of shows a real-world workflow example, how to scan a folder of PDFs, trim long documents, generate thumbnails, things like that. And so definitely go check that out. Again, you can do a lot of cool things with BoxLang out of the box, but some of these more niche things, there could be plus modules. And you know what? If they're going to save you time and solve problems, and that's what we're hoping for. And then mention it one more time, deploying BoxLang in the Cloud Video Series on CFCast and BoxLang Academy, led by Oscar Tisnato. It's basically a step-by-step video series showing how to deploy BoxLang servers in AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. A series designed for developers and DevOps engineers seeking efficient, modern cloud deployments. And that wraps up our Ortus section. Okay, let's move on. Let's got some CFML updates. And so big reminder from our buddy Charlie Earhart, the CF 2021 is end of life as of Monday, November 10th. So last Monday. It reached the end of life. They're no longer providing updates or security patches. You cannot buy extended support to get additional updates beyond the end of life. So that is a common misconception, he says. Perpetual CF 2020 licenses will not be deactivated after the end of life date Although subscription-based policies only remain active while payment continues. The 2023 license can no longer be purchased from Adobe, but you can buy a 2025 license and backward license it for 2023. And as they announced at the summit, Adobe is moving to an annual ColdFusion releases going forward, though it's unclear whether these annual versions will remain the traditional 5-year support lifecycle. A lot of that's to be determined. But if you need that 2023 installer and you can't find it on this website, there is a CFMLrepo.com website that you can get that from. Next up, it's a Docker blog post. And since you're the Docker guy, why don't you tell us about that?
All right. Well, this is a post from Ben Nadell about using custom font, making sure that they're available to the ColdFusion runtime within your Docker container. So this is important if you're going to be using like CFimage or PDF tools or something like that, and you want to be able to generate an image using a particular font. Normally, if someone goes to your website and you load a font on the web, you don't necessarily have to have that font. If they're using it like from a CDN or something like that, they can get it from Google or whatever. But if you're generating an image, that font needs to be available to the runtime to be able to use. And so this blog post just covers how to make sure that you have those resources available to your application when you deploy it.
Nice. And then we also have another article, which apparently I don't have the link for it. If you want to tell us about it.
Okay, sure. So this is kind of an interesting thing, something I haven't heard of before. I'm interested in looking more into it. So this is about, this is from James Moberg. It's an article about something called token-oriented object notation, which I guess, TOON for short, is a file format used for structuring data to pass it off to an LLM for processing. And it's, I guess, kind of specifically for formatting tabular data so that the AI is able to process it and do things like RAG or answer questions or stuff like that. So I haven't heard of token-oriented object notation before, but it sounds interesting. And sounds like maybe that might be an opportunity for a new module or something like that.
I think this was something that last episode, James was talking about where I had heard of this thing, and let me make sure that's message packs. That's the same thing as message pack support. Nope, never mind. But as usual, when James finds something like this, he's like, this is really cool. Let me do it in ColdFusion. Then he just writes a module and they do it. And then the community asks him for it. So thank you, James. It's less complex than nested data and JSON style objects. So that would be nice. Okay, let's see. If that wraps up the CFML community, we are rolling right along on a Tuesday. Events. We've got some events coming up. The first one is a CBWire free webinar, CBWire 5. It says it's a live launch and feature deep for December 3rd, 2025. It's the official CBWire 5 launch event. We're going to walk through the most exciting new features, be real components, and much, much more. As you can probably guess who's going to be there for that one.
Mr.
Our buddy Grant, our buddy Senior CBWire. Grant Copley. Oh, they updated the event. So he's going to showcase the dot notation data props, lock data props, improved file uploads, BoxLang support, the on-secure lifecycle method, and the smarter lifecycle and lazy loading. Really something, if you're curious about CBWire, or even if you're using a little bit, coming in there, it's always going to be great stuff. Grant is kicking butt and taking names, and he's doing an awesome job with CBWire.
As always.
Yep. Coming up after that, we've got ColdFusion security training online from Foundeo. It's going to be December 9th. I believe you could still register. Let me just double check that. As always, we can't say enough nice things about Pete. He's one of the security experts in the CFML community. When you go to conferences, if Pete's presenting, you should go and listen to his presentation because it's very informative. If not, sometimes a little scary, but in a good way. And so go check that out. Okay. Then following that, Jacob, since you're the only, conscientious person of the group, what else is next?
Well, we've got Into the Box 2026 coming up. I am extremely excited about this. I'll admit, it's probably because I'm extremely biased, but this is my favorite conference to attend throughout the year. But I'm not the only one who has said that before. I've heard even non-Ortus people say that. So if you don't have plans to come to Into the Box 2026, you should go visit the website and you should make plans to come to Into the Box 2026. We'll have a lot of great speakers and a lot of awesome announcements, and you're sure to get a lot out of it.
And speaking of speakers, the call to speakers open. I just post the link out there. We've only got, we're still getting some, but internally we're also supposed to be posting, and Jacob's posted 12 of them now? Seems like 12. That might be a lot. But he's definitely leading the Ortus team on sessions. And I was telling Dan got a session in there too, and I was looking at him like, Dan, I can't believe it. Everything I wanted to present on, Jacob already put in there. So I have to figure something else out. It's crazy how that works. I'm like, man, great minds definitely thinking alike. Coming up after ITB, CF Camp. They've got the save the date for June 18th through 19th, 2026, with a pre-conference on June 17th in Munich, Germany at the Atomis Hotel Munich. And so that's great. I think they're still getting things together, but at least if you want to pencil in the dates for that, I know it's about a month and a half after Into the Box. So plenty of time to come into the box and then go home, relax, and then go back out. And then finally, we mentioned this earlier, but we got Black Friday deals for the modern BoxLang developers. The whole BoxLang Thanksgiving week code smarter, modernize faster. We mentioned that earlier, but we'll post a link in there again because maybe you missed it or David was having a siesta, but he's back. Okay. And I think that pretty much wraps up today's episode of the Modernize or Die podcast. We'd like to thank to all our Patreon supporters. These individuals are personally supporting our open source initiatives to ensure great things like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, BoxLang, and all the other boxes. It keeps getting longer to say. Got to take bigger breaths. Their contributions fund the cloud infrastructure that our community relies on, like ForgeBox for package management with CommandBox. Now, if somebody wants to support us, what can they do, Jacob?
They can support us on Patreon. And as always, when you support someone on Patreon, there's usually some associated benefits with that. So for us, bronze Patreons and up get a ForgeBox Pro and CFCast subscription as a perk for their Patreon subscription. All Patreon supporters have a profile badge on the community website. All supporters have their own private forum access on the community website, and all supporters have their own private channel access to Box Team Slack. So you can talk directly with us if you have any issues or if you just want to tell us how good of a job we're doing.
Aw, nice. Jacob, you're doing a good job, buddy.
Thanks, Daniel. You too.
Just in case, I want to make sure you got that feedback right away.
I appreciate it.
And as always, you can see an up-to-date list of all our sponsors on the Ortus Solutions website, ortussolutions.com/about-us/sponsors. And with that, we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching us on the YouTube or the LinkedIn. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. Jacob, it's my buddy. It's always good to see you and all the cool things you're doing and keep doing. And kind of waiting for the next VS Code extension update too. I feel like that there's always something coming. And so if we don't see you, everybody have a happy Thanksgiving next week for those in the US. And we'll see you before too long. Take care. Bye.
All right. See y'all.